All right, welcome back to the topic of food molecules. So please be reminded that we are continuing in chapter 5. We already started proteins and now we're going to continue to carbohydrates. And again, all of chapter 5 is on organic molecules, which are also called molecules of life, but the way we experience molecules in our food. And today we're going to focus on carbohydrates. All right, there are 3 types of carbohydrates. There are monosaccharides, which are also known as simple sugars. All right, so there are monosaccharides, which are also known as simple sugars. There are disaccharides, which are also known as double sugars. And finally, there are polysaccharides. Now, poly, all right, you might remember means many. So polysaccharides are big molecules. They're also known as complex carbohydrates. So we have simple sugars, double sugars, and we have complex carbohydrates. And the 2 types of complex carbohydrates are starches and cellulose or fiber. So our polysaccharides are starches and fiber, which scientifically is usually known as cellulose. So let's begin this sweet subject. All right, we're going to start off with the simplest sugars, monosaccharides. They're simplest because if you look at their structure, they only have between 3 and 6 carbon atoms. And if for your upcoming quiz, you only have time to memorize 1 simple sugar, 1 monosaccharides, it better be glucose. That is by far the most important. All right, so let's take a look at it. All right, here is glucose. Here is 1 monosaccharide, and here's its cousin fructose. So we're going to play a little game here. All right, if you are female, I want you to count the number of carbon atoms, the number of hydrogen atoms, and the number of oxygen atoms in glucose. But if you're male, I want you to count the number of C's, H's, and O's in fructose. So go ahead and take a minute, and I'll let you do that right now. All right, ladies, how many carbon atoms did you count for glucose? Hopefully you got 6 carbons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens. All right, this is the formula for glucose. What about fructose, guys? 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens. What? How can we have 2 totally different molecules? They are similar in that they taste sweet, but they're different in that fructose is much sweeter than glucose. All right, they are different chemicals. They are different molecules, yet they have the same kind of formula. So if you did your chapter 4 reading, you should know what we call 2 molecules that are different but have the same formula. All right, are you thinking isomers? Well, if you are correct. All right. Iso, by the way, always means the same or equal. All right. So back in chapter 2, we talked about isotopes. All right, this could be a little short answer, right, on a quiz. Isotopes are 2 atoms that have equal what? Equal atomic number, but different atomic masses. And isomers have equal formulas. They're both C6H12O6. Okay, got it? But like I said, glucose is the most important one. And on your next quiz, I want you to be able to draw glucose. And remember, when we draw these molecules of life, you're never allowed to forget honk 1, 2, 3, 4. Every hydrogen atom is only stable with 1 covalent bond, oxygen 2, nitrogen 3, and carbon 4. If you make a drawing where carbon only has 3 covalent bonds, or oxygen has 3 covalent bonds, then you are not drawing reality. You are not drawing a real molecule. It doesn't exist. And remember, science deals with the physical universe, not the imaginary universe. So we're not drawing unicorns. All right. The formula for glucose is C6. So I'm going to start off by drawing 6 carbon atoms covalently bonded together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need another one. All right, you know what? I'm going to run out of room here if I do it this way. Sorry, so you can keep drawing. All right, 6 carbon atoms. And we use covalent bonds in biology. We don't really see a whole lot of ionic bonds. All right, to the top to carbon number 1, we're going to add a double covalent bond oxygen. Okay, double covalent bond oxygen. So is this oxygen atom happy? Yes, it is, because it has 2 covalent bonds. So yay, oxygen is happy. Is carbon number 1 happy? Well, it has 1, 2, 3 covalent bonds, so no, it is not happy. But now if we add covalent bond hydrogen, carbon number 1 is happy. It's stable because it has 1, 2, 3, 4 covalent bonds. Hydrogen is happy because it has 1 covalent bond. Oxygen is happy because it has 2 covalent bonds. See how we play the game? All right, to carbon number 2, we're going to add an OH group. Look in your flashcards. What functional group is the OH group? I'll give you a second. Oh, did I hear somebody say hydroxyl? Of course I did. OH is the hydroxyl group. All right, so we have a hydroxyl group on one side and a hydrogen atom on the other side. So carbon number 2 is now happy. 1, 2, 3, 4. What about hydroxyl? Is it happy? Let me blow it up and look at it. Is this hydrogen atom happy? We only have 1 covalent bond drawn, but there's a second covalent bond implied here. If you wanted to be really picky, you could draw it like this. But nobody ever draws it like this because there's just too gosh darn many of them. We always draw hydroxyls like this, and you are just supposed to know there is a covalent bond between oxygen and hydrogen, and that way oxygen is happy with 2 covalent bonds and hydrogen's happy with 1. See how we play this game? All right, what I'm about to show you is the most important part about drawing glucose. On carbon number 3, you put the hydroxyl on the opposite side. I will repeat that. This is really important. You don't have to number your carbons in your drawing. I'm just doing it. All right, in carbon number 3, you have to put the hydroxyl on the opposite side. Why? If you don't, it's not glucose. That's just the way the universe made it, all right? All right, so we put a hydroxyl on one side and a hydrogen atom covalently bonded on the other side. Now notice, you memorize hydroxyls as OH, OH, OH. All right, but on this side, it has to look like it spells HO, not O, because, let me draw it wrong for a second. If you would draw the hydroxyl like this, then hydrogen is too happy because it has 2 covalent bonds. It's overly happy, so that doesn't exist. And oxygen is unhappy because it only has 1 covalent bond. So do not make this mistake. On carbon number 3, the hydroxyl has to be on the opposite side and has to be drawn so everybody's happy. Now I could have flipped this whole molecule. I could have, so this could have ended up on the right side, or I could have put it upside down. I'm just drawing it like this. All right, for carbons 4, 5, and 6, so we're going to draw the hydroxyls on the same side as carbon number 2. So OH, 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 because we just did the hardest part. We just put the hydroxyl on the opposite side on carbon number 3. All right, now it's easy. You just add enough hydrogens covalently bonded to carbons to make everybody happy. So now carbon number 4 is happy, carbon number 5. All right, is everybody happy? No. Did you catch my mistake? Well, sort of a planned mistake. This carbon number 6 needs 1 more covalent bond hydrogen. All right, so if you're majoring in biology or EBB or pre-med, you pretty much should know the formula for glucose, the structure of glucose for the rest of your life, because it's a pretty gosh darn important molecule. So how do you check your work? All right, first make sure you've satisfied honk. Do all the carbons have 4 covalent bonds? Do all the oxygens have 2 covalent bonds? Do all the hydrogens have 1? Second, you check the formula. Do you have 6 carbons? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, I have 6 carbons. Do I have 12 hydrogens? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, I do indeed have 12 hydrogens. Do I have 6 oxygens? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, I do. So since I have C6H12O6 and I satisfied honk, I can be pretty confident that my drawing of glucose is correct, and you would get points on your test or quiz. All right, now that I've just taught you how to draw the linear form of glucose, surprise, it doesn't exist that often in nature. Whenever glucose hits an aqueous solution, by that we mean water solution, so think your blood, all right? glucose automatically turns into a ring structure. So here we have our linear molecule of glucose that I just had you memorize. And you will notice here, let me switch colors here. Let's go with orange. You'll notice here that the hydroxyl of carbon number 3 is on the opposite side, just like I drew it on the other slide. So what happens when glucose switches from linear structure to ring structure? This double covalent bond, all right, so this double covalent bond associated with carbon number 1, it pops open and it's going to attach to carbon number 5. Replace that hydroxyl there. That's going to open up. And basically you're going to play ring around the rosy, all right? But poor carbon number 6 does not get to play ring around the rosy. Poor carbon number 6. So let's check it out. Here's carbon number 1 now. Its hydroxyl is below the ring. All right, here's carbon number 2. Its hydroxyl is below the ring. Carbon number 3, look, its hydroxyl is above the ring. Remember, it's always different on carbon number 3. Why? Because that's the way the universe made glucose, all right? Carbon number 4, the hydroxyl is below the ring. So number 3, hydroxyl is different from everybody else. Then carbon number 5, and it's associated with that O there. But then carbon number 6 does not get to play ring around the rosy. So even though this 6-carbon sugar has formed a hexagon, we have 5 carbon atoms and an oxygen atom. All right, you do not have to draw this. You do not have to draw this. You just have to know it exists. All right, you should pick up by now I like to make fun of scientists. All right, and I've already told you scientists are really, really dumb because when we're really, really, really sure of an idea because there's overwhelming supporting evidence, what do we call it? Yeah, a theory. Isn't that dumb? All right. Now I give you another dirty secret about scientists. We're lazy. All right, it is too much of a pain to draw carbon atom number 1, carbon atom number 2. So every dot you see here is a carbon atom. So that is for most of your structures how you will see carbon atoms drawn for the rest of the course. So here's carbon atom number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and again, poor number 6 does not get to play ring around the rosy. I pressed the wrong button, obviously. All right, I feel like I've been talking too long, so I would like to put you guys together in dyads and talk, but you know, COVID. All right, so answer in your head, who makes glucose? Think about that for a moment. Why switch pens? All right, probably when I say who makes glucose, probably you're thinking plants. And if you're thinking that, you would be absolutely right. Plants and green algae. And the follow-up question is then by what process? So hopefully this is something that indeed you learned in grade school or high school, that plants as well as algae and some kind of bacteria, they make glucose, they make sugar by the process of photosynthesis. And this is an equation you should memorize because it's one of the most important equations in biology. All right, so sorry about that. I'm still getting used to this. Go away. All right. Our equation of photosynthesis is light energy, that says light, plus 6 molecules of carbon dioxide. I told you this was an important simple molecules, plus 6 molecules of water. I told you that would be important too. You should be familiar with the structure of both of these. Yields, you better know what C6H12O6 is. Glucose. Plus 6 molecules of oxygen gas. Okay? This is what photosynthesis produces. It uses light energy plus carbon dioxide and water to make sugar, yay, which is sweet, we love it, and oxygen. And the really, really cool thing, if you remember in chemistry, the law of conservation of energy, all right, energy cannot be created or destroyed, simply converted from one form to another. So what we have going on is light energy, which is radiant or electromagnetic, is being trapped inside the covalent bonds of glucose. So light energy, which is radiant, is being trapped inside the covalent bonds of glucose. So we're converting light energy, radiant energy, into chemical energy. So the cool thing is whenever you eat sugar, or whenever you eat any of your food, you're eating trapped sunlight. Isn't that cool? Whenever you eat sugar, you're eating, or any of your food, you're eating trapped sunlight. All right, so Kroger's and Myers does not make sugar. Plants make sugar and other photosynthetic organisms by the process of photosynthesis. So hopefully you knew that, but let's go a little bit further. Who uses glucose and why? All right, usually people say, we use glucose. Okay, yes, all animals use glucose. What about all animals? Yes, all animals use glucose. All right, why do we eat glucose? Why do all animals consume glucose? For energy. Because we and all animals, we eat glucose to unlock that energy that plants locked in by photosynthesis. So photosynthesis traps energy, traps sunlight and glucose, and we eat the glucose so we can unlock the energy. Yay! All right, drum roll here. What process do we and all animals use to unlock the stored energy of glucose? And the answer is, drum roll, cellular respiration. So this is a process you also probably learned about in high school, but probably forgot because it was hard and boring. But it's really important because cellular respiration allows us to get the energy out of our food. So that's pretty important. And when we study cellular respiration, you'll notice that the equation is pretty much the backwards of photosynthesis. We combine oxygen and glucose to break down the glucose into carbon dioxide and water and release the stored energy. We just don't re-release it as light. So cellular respiration is basically the opposite process of photosynthesis. In other words, what does cellular respiration do? It combines oxygen with glucose so that the energy of the glucose can be released. Yay. All right. Remember, I've been teasing you since the beginning of the semester. Why do we need oxygen to live? Why do we need oxygen to live? And the simple 4th grade level answer is we need oxygen to release the energy from our food. I will repeat that because it's so important. Why do we need oxygen O2 to live? To release the energy from our food. It's that simple. Every cell of our body needs oxygen, it needs energy to live. We need energy to live. All life forms need energy to live. All right. And what we animals do is we breathe in oxygen, combine it with glucose, and through this process of cellular respiration, release the energy from our food. So the more complicated answer is, which most people don't understand, is why do we need oxygen to live? So we can do cellular respiration. But what is cellular respiration? So the process of cellular respiration releases energy from our food, and we need oxygen to do it. So without oxygen, we can't do cellular respiration. We can't release the energy from our food. You got it? All right, what about plants? Do all plants need oxygen to live? I wish this were live because I'd have you all vote yes or no. And the answer is yes, plants need oxygen to live. Why do they need oxygen to live? Guess what? For the same reason you need oxygen to live, to get the energy out of your food. Plants make glucose by photosynthesis, right? Plants make glucose by photosynthesis, and we study it, you'll see it's a really complicated process. Why would plants go to all the trouble to make glucose if they weren't going to use it? And the way you use it is to break it down and release the stored energy. So yes, plants do cellular respiration, but guess what? Rewind. Plants do photosynthesis, but guess what? They also do cellular respiration. They make their own food and then they break it down for energy. They make their own food and they break it down for energy. All right, so that's the difference between plants and animals. Plants make their own food. They make their glucose so they can break it down by cellular respiration and get the energy out of it. But we animals, we have to eat our food. All right, brain getting full? Just a little bit more. So we'll go over this in chapter 2, but hopefully you know we're made out of cells. They have a nucleus. And what the cell needs energy. So glucose will go into your cell. But where in the cell is it broken down? Do you remember this from high school biology? The answer is this cute little organelle, one of my favorite, called the mitochondrion. So the mitochondria is sort of sausage-shaped organelle. There's my ugly drawing of it. Here's some diagrams. They're no better, really. All right. So this is where cellular respiration occurs. So in Unit 2, we're going to emphasize this more, but this is where sugar goes into the mitochondria, and that's where it's busted apart with the help of oxygen, and boom, energy is released. So let's look at a plant cell. This is sort of cool, I think. But then, hey, I'm a nerdy biologist. Your plant cell has chloroplast, and that's where glucose is made by photosynthesis. But notice a plant cell also has mitochondria, and that's where glucose is busted up. Okay? So I think this is long enough for one video, and I also have a short video posted on disaccharides, and